Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting. It's February 10th, 2023. Happy Friday, everybody. All right, our agenda this morning, we'll start out with success stories. We'll then go have everybody put their 30-second introductions into the chat window. We'll hear from our committee reports, and then we'll have our main event towards the top of the hour. For those people on Zoom, please, any questions you've got throughout the day, please just enter your questions into the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, you can just enter your questions into the comment field. We're monitoring that feed, and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Please, please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. Well, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. I took it over in 2007 when one of the prior leaders landed a job. In 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search That You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon, or you can get one from me. And since 2017, I've been a member of the Dallas Pit Crew. You'll hear more about that in just a moment. All right, we like to start the meeting off with good news, success stories. Do we have any good news that people would like to share out there? Any landings? Going once, going twice, any landings? All right, we'll move on then. Okay, what we'd love for everybody to do in the chat window, we'd love for you to put in your name, comma, phone, comma, email address, position you're looking for, 2 or 3 target companies, and then hit the return key. What I will do is I will take all that information. I will put it into an email this afternoon. I also will use it to update the roster. You only will get the email this afternoon if I get your email address, if you put your contact information here in the chat window. For those watching on Facebook, if you want to put your information into the comment field, I will delete it. I'll copy it over and then delete it off Facebook immediately after the session's over. Please, once you get that email this afternoon, please reach out and see who can you help? Who else is out there that you can, is there a company name that you have a contact with? How can you help somebody every day? How can you help somebody today? So let's put 30 seconds on the clock. Oops. Come on here. All right, if you're still typing things in, please feel free to go ahead and get that information in there. We'd really, really appreciate it. All right. If you know somebody who was recently laid off, somebody who's currently looking for a job, let them know about Career DFW, Career USA, 2 totally free websites that are out there. They don't collect any personal information, just there to give you information. There's a great one-page handout about I just lost my job. What do I do? Some great handouts on how to get your job search going, some things you may have thought about, haven't thought about to make things move you in the right progress here. Also on the Career DFW calendar, one of the things you'll find on the Career DFW website is Career DFW calendars. For those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a lot of free career fairs, job training workshops that are happening. All the free workshops are there in gold. You'll see the job fairs are in pink. Any of the meetings that are meeting in person are in blue. Webinars are in purple for those around the United States. So there's a lot of really great information on there. Check out the calendar. I know I loaded up a lot of job fairs for the rest of this year from some of the national websites. I loaded those up yesterday or this past week. All right, the practice interview team. Let me just talk about that for a second. Just think about this. Your resume and your LinkedIn profile isn't going to get you a job. All it does is it gets you a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. So come practice at the practice interview team. It's totally free. They don't, they're just here to help you practice. Their motto is practice early, practice often, because you probably need to practice 3 to 5 times to really become comfortable interviewing. It's not something you can just pick up once and do, but you're going to pick stuff up. The interview lasts about 45 minutes. There's then 15 to 25 minutes of review and discussion about how you did, what you talked about. What they're asking for, what they need, what you need to do is just send a resume and a job description and send it to dallaspitcrew@gmail.com. And your schedule 2 to 4 days out so they can try to schedule something. I know the pit crew's been really, really busy the last couple of weeks. I think they've had 6 or 7 or maybe even 8 different interviews that have been coming up. So please, if you're interested, get out there. Don't wait until the last moment. We had somebody go on Wednesday, I have an interview on Friday, help me. And it's just like, we really can't get somebody that quickly to help you on a Friday morning to do an interview. So please practice early. You don't even have to have a job, find a job description online that you'd be interested in doing, send it in and a resume, and just let the pit crew know where you are in your job search. That way, if it's just a practice interview, or if it's the second round interview or the third round interview, they will customize what it is they're doing. One of the other things we want to start talking about is that starting in March, the pit crew will start meeting in person on the first and third Wednesdays each month. So there'll be no online options. So for the first and third Wednesdays starting in March, you got to be here. And if you're not here, you're going to miss out on what the Dallas pit crew does. Hopefully we'll have interviews on Wednesdays. We'll do a lot of great work to try to help you. The interviews are at Christ United Methodist Church, which is on Coit Road, Coit and Parker up in Plano. It's from 1 o'clock, starts at 1 o'clock, and it'll go hour and a half, depending on how much what information we have to share. The second and fourth Wednesdays, we will continue to meet online and do the workshops and any of the interview workshops we've been doing here in the past. So hopefully you'll come join us. Hold on a second here. Let me pass the microphone over to Walt. Walt will be a little confused.
Am I garbled and muffled?
You sound fine to me.
Does it sound? Okay, great. Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Walt.
When does March get here? I am ready for some warmer weather. When I moved to Dallas, I moved up north. Below 60 degrees is cold. Well, what do I do, and how can I help you in your job search? Well, I also focus on interviewing skills as well. And as I had retired and was looking for something to do, I went on to some of the job search groups, because I remember back in 1999, 2000, I spent 15 months looking for jobs and attended a couple of groups. And I saw that the pit crew was just a fantastic service that was provided free of charge to help us gain those skills. But I also saw a need that says, do we really know how to sell ourselves? Because everyone agrees it's a selling situation and we're selling ourselves. And just what is that? So I developed a model called I Am, I Do, I Help. We sell who we are, what we do, and how we can help, the value that we can bring to the job. Well, just how do we do that? So I developed the Interview Success Workshop. Did it back in 2000, 2002, when I was looking for jobs back then. And then now that I've retired, I've pulled that forward and said how I can make some sort of contribution to the community today in the job search world. Therefore, what is the workshop and how is it different from the pit crew? Well, it's very informal. It is a learning workshop. We're learning how to sell. It's not a mock interview at all. It's informal. I like to have fun while we are learning and not have that stress that goes along with it. So how can we do that? Well, you just look me up on LinkedIn under Walton Class and you can see my about section tells you about the details of the workshop. You need to be registered to attend. Just send me an email to that yahoo.com email address where I use that for the workshop by itself. I'd be glad to have you contact me and then I'll send you some dates of availability and get you registered. I only do 1 or 2 people at a time. And I usually do it on Tuesdays, 9 to 11, but I schedule additional ones as demand is present. So how can you make a difference? Well, you make a difference by selling well, showing what you can do for them, who you are, the activities and skills and knowledge that you have. And that's all you do. All right. It's either a match or it's not. And if you can do that well, that's a successful interview. You've done the best that you can. So when you sign up and we participate and we get online and we have some fun, I call it learning without squirming. In interviews, do we feel insecure with stress, anxiety, perhaps some fear? Well, come practice, gain knowledge, confidence, and wisdom so we can rejoin the employed kingdom.
Thank you very much, Walt. All right, let's see here. All right, it's time to hear the career tip of the week. There's a brand new career tip of the week every week on the Career DFW and Career USA websites. Rosanna, good morning.
Good morning, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. All right. Well, this was an interesting tip. Feels like I'm going against my people because we're talking about HR and LinkedIn. All right. So today's tip of the week is, or this week's tip of the week is dated February the 5th. And it's LinkedIn author has strategic advice to improve your profile. So this article is written by Robin Ryan. Wouldn't you think people working in HR would have a great presence on LinkedIn, especially if they are recruiters or in talent acquisition? Yet when you search them out, you'll find quite a few have pretty poor profiles. Karen, a director of employee relations, has an incomplete LinkedIn profile and thought nothing of it. Then her employer of 11 years started making leadership changes. Her boss departed and she got a new manager whom she instantly disliked. Within a few months, she realized it was time to move on. In our first career counseling conversation, she said, I knew that LinkedIn was a vital career tool, but I hadn't cared. Then once I began my job hunt and networking, a few friends mentioned getting calls from recruiters off their LinkedIn profile. That's when I realized I needed to completely revamp it. Jen had recently graduated from college with a degree in communications. She had set her sights on being a marketing coordinator, yet she was struggling to get her first job. Jen needed help to impress recruiters and a wanted top-notch profile. When she started to write it, Jen got overwhelmed. She needed help identifying keywords, writing a headline, and promoting her internship and academic experience. She called for assistance. Together, we created a new LinkedIn profile that reflected what she'd accomplished and presented her in a positive light. Jen got a call from a major airline. Her interview went very well, and she landed that coveted position. Once she got hired, the recruiter told her, I always check out a candidate's LinkedIn profile before I start the interview process. If I'm not impressed, I move on. Yours caught my attention. Tom had years of experience and was a prominent company's head of talent acquisition. However, he had utterly ignored LinkedIn. That changed, he said, when a colleague told him that job hunters were checking him out and his current profile reflected poorly on him and his company. Tom got the message and agreed that his colleague was right, and he immediately enhanced his LinkedIn profile. So, expert guidance. Donna Sedula is the author of LinkedIn Profiles Optimization for Dummies, second edition. She explained the importance of looking impressive on that platform. Your LinkedIn profile is all about branding, and branding branding, said Sadula, who partners with companies that optimize their leadership profiles to align with companies' messaging. Anyone in senior leadership or HR should be a brand ambassador on LinkedIn, as they are the face of the company. And so when done correctly, this could be a powerful tool for recruitment and employee engagement. A profile that's professional profile is essential for job hunters. Sadula continued noting a critical mistake many make if they don't think about who their target audience is, and primarily it's recruiters and hiring managers. She says upon reviewing your current profile, does it showcase your expertise, strengths, and abilities? Will it actually support the new job you want? Your experience and skills should stress how to relate to performing a new job and demonstrate how you could take on a bigger role someplace new. Sadula advises that you not use job descriptions. They will not have critical keywords necessary that you can be found online. Don't just grab the company job info and post it. Instead, feature your top accomplishments. People often confess that it is difficult to write about themselves, so they avoid doing it. Optimizing your profile will tell the world about you and who you are in an appealing light. That has a positive impact on how others see you. Be strategic in telling your story as you create your headline, about section, and work experience. As far as keywords, how do you come up to the top of a recruiter's search? It's all about using keywords and optimizing your LinkedIn profile. You must include these keywords in the headline, about section, and work descriptions. No list exists. You must customize your words. How? Review the appropriate employer's job listing. Highlight the needed strengths, essential requirements, and top work tasks. Then use those details to create your keywords in your work descriptions. Do not stuff the profile with keywords. Sadula says that strategy is not effective. Write the about section in first person. It's not about keywords, but needs to share some insight about your personality, who you are, or who are you? Do you focus on helping others? What are your passions? Why do you do what you do? Why does it matter? What kind of manager are you? And be genuine in telling your story. Do invite people to connect and network. And this article was written by Robin Ryan. She's a career counselor that helps clients land jobs. She offers resume writing, LinkedIn profile writing, interview coaching, and salary negotiation services. She said she's appeared on Oprah, Dr. Phil, and 32 other TV and radio shows, a Wall Street Journal #1 best-selling author. She's written 8 career books, including 60 Seconds and You're Hired, Retirement Reinvention, Winning Resumes, and over 40 and You're Hired. Helping people advance their careers and land new jobs is her mission. Learn more at robinryan.com. Now, I do have a few additional statements to add on to this topic. First, yes, Robin Ryan sounds fantastic, and because she's providing services, those services may not be free. So I would highly recommend a starting point right here with Career DFW. There are several resources when it comes to the LinkedIn, optimizing your LinkedIn profile. So every Tuesday, there are 4 LinkedIn experts that present how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so recruiters can find you. These 4 speakers repeat the presentations each month during weeks 1 through 4, and then during the 5th week, when there's a month with a 5th week in it, Jeff actually presents. But you can watch the recent session videos on either Career DFW's YouTube channel or on Facebook. Jeff will describe how to find these videos at the end of today's session. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is for those of you who have undergraduate students, help them to also understand the need to have a LinkedIn profile in today's professional world. Encourage them to visit their college or university career center, who can assist them with creating a profile. But then once that's done, share the career DFW LinkedIn video resources with them. Also help them to make connections to professionals in their field of study. When they reach 60 hours of study or attain their associate's degree, that's a great time to begin looking at internships. You can go into LinkedIn in search, and in that search, just put in hashtag internship and check every single one of these different drop downs you'll see. You'll see hashtag internships, hashtag internship 2023, hashtag internship opportunities, and the list goes on. But check each and every one of those just to see what's out there and available. And then as parents, also help your students to connect with people at businesses that you know, as well as join groups within their field of study so they can learn what's happening in their field. Help them to learn this all now so that it's all practice time and they're ready by the time they reach graduation. Well, that's this week's tip of the week, and it's dated February the 5th, and it's LinkedIn's author has strategic advice to improve your profile. Have a wonderful weekend, everybody.
Jeff, your mic's not working.
Oh, sorry about that. I turned it off while the talk was going, but yes, it's, very, very important. I think your LinkedIn profile is very important for you to be ready to go. It's got to be robust. It has to have lots of keywords in it. So hopefully you'll take a look at what she talked about here and see what you can do to update your profile so that you can be found. Because as I said at the beginning, your LinkedIn profile doesn't get you a job, but it gets you that phone call. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for those phone calls to come in. All right. Hopefully, if you'd like to come join us for lunch today, I think everybody has to eat lunch at some point. You'll come out and join us today at Country Burger. Since nobody showed up last week, I figure we'll do the same thing this week. Country Burger, 3115 West Parker Road. It's on the northwest corner of Parker at Independence. Burgers, they have chicken, they have salads, they've got other things. And if you want that hamburger you see over there on the left-hand side, it's about $35, but you have to bring your own ham because they don't have any ham to put on there like you see there. All right. In just a second here, we're going to hear from our speaker talking, Elizabeth Lyons, talking about the overall job seeking market and the job hunt. She's going to pull a crystal ball out and tell us what she sees. But I just want to mention what's coming up here. Next week, we're going to have a very interesting presentation about crystal nose. Patty is with us from the Phoenix area. She recently just got laid off and she's joining us back. She's a big proponent of crystal nose. She's been using it for the last few years, and it's really fascinating how it's used. So you'll definitely want to come join us next week. And then I'm still working on a speaker for the 24th. For some reason, he doesn't want to work on they don't want to talk on the 24th, but all of March is totally booked right now. So we will have a speaker here in a couple of weeks. I'll just let you know about that. All right. Our speaker today is Elizabeth Lyons. She's with us. She's been with us many times over the last 10, 12 years. She's going to talk about the overall job seeking market, the job hunt. Elizabeth is a talent in talent acquisition. She loves to play in the stock market, so she's always looking from what the economy is going to be doing. I love her last thing here on her profile. She says she's an eternal optimist. So Elizabeth, thank you for being with us. I'll let you tell people more about what you're currently doing, and thank you for being with us.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure. Can everybody hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. Let me bring up the presentation. So let me try to, is it okay if I stop sharing screen for everybody else?
It'll work.
All right, here we go. All right, let me see if I can grab my presentation quick. Bear with me. Oh, technical difficulty. Oh, wait. Now I can get it. Hang on. So this is kind of a general job seeking presentation that I have here. So it's a little bit of everything. It's definitely going to be a bit of a economic update, because that really does impact your job search to some extent. And people never think of it that way. You know, we're all just kind of looking at our job search and what's going on with us, but it's actually a very relevant, important piece to kind of consider as what's going on out there. So what we're going to talk about today is, like I said, the economic outlook. So what are we seeing? And I think the looming question here is there a recession? Is there not going to be a recession? Are we in a recession? Did the recession happen and we blinked and we didn't know it? I mean, there's a lot of questions around that. Disclaimer, I'm not an economist. I'm very well read. I would say that. And I would say that I take my sources from reputable sources that are not swayed politically one way or the other on this topic. So I'm going to show you some numbers around that. I don't think there's any answers here, but we'll get to that point as well. And then I wanted to talk about, it feeds into this beautifully, you know, the economic outlook, this recession, no recession. What are employers really looking for now, today, while you're in the job search, while you may be in the job search this next 90 days, what are they looking for? And then I want to leave you with some pretty cutting edge tools that are out there for you to use during your job search time that I think you'll find interesting. So the world is bigger than LinkedIn Premium, I guess is my point there. So my name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm the author of 3 books. The first is Recession Proof Yourself. The second is called I Quit, Working for You Isn't Working for Me. And the third is a leadership book called Hear Us Roar, Unapologetic Women Leading in Corporate America. So I think that, you know, this is an interesting topic around coaches and coaching. You know, I started coaching before coaching was a thing. My first book was not published through Amazon. There was no Amazon publishing. You know, I've been doing it over 20 years. And I think that the real distinguishing factor between me and, say, the other coach you just heard from a little bit ago is I'm still in the trenches. So there's a lot of coaches out there and they can coach the game and do a good job. But the reality is I'm talking to hiring managers every day, all day long. I'm in the banking financial space. I work for one of the largest banks there is out there. And prior to that, I was ex-Fiserv, which now is on par with Apple or Google. So my job every day, all day long, is to literally get manager feedback as to why they're going to hire you or not. And a big part of my job is looking at hundreds of applications and deciding if I'm going to call you or not. And so that's a very different coach, and that's a very different perspective coming out there on the market. It's real time. So I'm going to jump right into the numbers here because I found these to be kind of interesting, and it took me quite a bit to grab all these for you. I wanted to look back into fourth quarter of last year and 2022 in the fall and look at the unemployment levels. And let me back up here a minute. This is why I did this. I accidentally stumbled across an article as I was preparing this deck for all of you. And the article talked about this record number of jobs that was added in January, and that the unemployment numbers were still low. And that was right on the heels of, it's not what we thought it would be. And is this recession thing really happening? And what is up with Facebook, Meta, Google, and all these huge big tech headlines we're reading that they're laying off in droves? Because if you're on LinkedIn or if you're anywhere in the business segment, they're talking about all these big tech layoffs. And so the market automatically thinks, whoa, well, that's going to impact us. And job seekers are like, wait, that's going to hurt us because everybody's laying off. No, you look at the data. This is what I'm showing you is the data. So that's an interesting point to bring up. And I would tell all of you in job search, be very careful what you read, because it may not impact you at all. And you might be reading things that are scare tactics, that are just not going to pan out. You really need to look at data and then kind of back up and look at all of it and a trend pattern to figure out what is really going on. Because how are you even going to know where to look? You don't want to look in areas or pockets where they're laying off and waste your time. But do you really know? If we're just reading headlines, I mean, do any of us really know what's going on? Because the headlines are just getting clicks. It may not be data, or it may be spun in a way. So I think you guys know where I'm going with this. So I wanted to look at fourth quarter of last year, and I knew the unemployment was low, 3.7. They added 263,000 jobs. Well, the real question becomes, well, that's great. Well, if I'm in IT, if I'm a cybersecurity professional, if I'm, a C-level professional or director, what jobs did you add? Because it doesn't help me if you added a bunch of warehouse and hospitality jobs, right? So I think that's where they go, oh, jobs added. Okay, great. What is it? Again, drill down and really make sure you're looking at reputable sources before you run into the panic mode of, oh my God, we're in recession, I'm not going to get hired. Interestingly enough, a lot of it was business services. The top was business services, and then it was transportation, warehouse, and hospitality. This is back in November. But that makes sense, right? We're trying to replace post-pandemic this area where nobody either wants to work or there isn't people, right? Nobody's come back since the pandemic. So then you look at December and it drops again. But we still added 233,000 jobs. Well, they're mostly in healthcare and construction. Construction is the first place I look. Over 20 years in this line of work, the first indicator of recession or no recession is always construction. That's a big critical piece. Healthcare, that's broad. It's not necessarily nursing, because I dug into the details there. It could be IT positions within healthcare. It could be anything like that. A professional, not necessarily a nurse or a doctor. It could be actually the infrastructure that runs healthcare, big data people, right? And then you look in January and we're down to 3.4 in unemployment. And they added a ton of jobs, 500,000 jobs they added. Now, the bulk is in leisure and hospitality because they're finding that everybody is going away. Everybody wants to take a vacation and go, and they're really in a bad source here. But that's an interesting number. Here's the other thing. Did the Feds mess with the rates? And in November, they did. In fact, they did 7 times last year. That's going to impact if we pull into recession or not. And there's a point where they can't do it anymore, and they shouldn't, because it will really mess with our economy in a big way, and all your bonds will go bad, which you've got your baby boomers and a lot of retired people that move their money into bonds when the stock market went crazy. So my parting line on this is recession isn't necessarily a bad thing. And the reason the United States is the United States and not Denmark or Europe or the Middle East is because we have this kind of an economy. So the recession is actually a critical piece to us maintaining, healthy economic flow, if you will. Now, yeah, people like you and I can get caught up in layoffs and so forth, but the bigger picture is, what can happen if we don't have this recession? December, they did it again with the Feds messed with the rates again. And then in January, I was reading an article, they don't know if they're going to do it or not. So the big question is, are we heading into recession? Are we not heading into recession? Where do I look for a job? Where's the safety net? It's very hard to predict. All the economists agree that they have never seen anything like this, but we've never gone through a global pandemic and then pulled out of a global pandemic. We still have serious supply chain issues. The United States is seriously considering, why are we doing any work offshore at all, considering what happened with China? Apple is in the worst bind that they could ever be in because they're enslaved to China for parts, which affects every iPhone out there. Do you see where I'm going? So it's really difficult for the economists to say, oh, here's the indicators. Oh, here isn't the indicators. This is where we're going. And JP Morgan from Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan every week comes out with another article about if we're in this mode or if we're not, and if we're going into it. And that becomes difficult too, because you've got that piece out there. And I don't like him or dislike him or have any opinion about him at all, but he was definitely one source that I looked at over 20 years to kind of predict where the market was going, so that when I opened up jobs, I knew what the talent market was doing. And Goldman Sachs was another reputable source I watched. And I'm unable to really even look at the experts now and really understand what we're doing. So I don't know what to tell you here. I think it's something to kind of watch. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. I think there are clearly some areas and some industries where they're getting a lot of job growth or backfilling, and there are some areas they are not. So maybe from a job search perspective, I might look at certain industries over others, but I would not be applying and worrying about, am I going to get another job? Because the indicators show there's plenty of work out there. There's plenty of opportunities still. And typically, I mean, this is my data point and doing this over 20 years and seeing a few recessions here. I would say the biggest hiring time has always been January, February, March, and April. The ads double out there on the job boards. Even a recession, they do double. So I still think that there's a lot out there that you can find and get and grab and land some pretty good opportunities. So business opportunities are like buses. There's always another one coming along. And that is true. I mean, I think even in recession, there's still plenty out there. It's really about maybe having a good strategy, not just a good resume or a cover letter or a good interview, but really having a job search strategy about where are you going? What do you really want? What do you not really want? What companies fit that mold? What ones don't? And then I put this slide in here because the reality is, this is really what a job seeker goes through, and these are also the stages of grief, frankly, and loss. And the biggest thing that I would want you to take away from is be very careful riding this, because what happens is, we come to a meeting like this and we start to feel hope and we start to feel enthusiasm. And we're like, okay, we're in here because this is good talk and I'll find something. And, our emotions go up and we got something to hang ourselves on. And then, Sunday, Monday, and we're back into here or here, because now we got to apply online and we're frustrated and we don't like that. And then, oh, I got an email. I've got an interview, a phone screen on Wednesday. Oh, this is going to work out. I really want that job. I'm really qualified for that job. That's going to work out really well. Oh, I just got the go away, Joe, decline email in my in basket for that other opportunity. Why would they do that? That makes me really angry. I'm qualified. They don't know what they're doing. I'm the guy. I'm the gal. You see this? Don't do this. When you do this, when you don't get a hold of yourself and your emotions, you will not have clarity when it comes to you. You will not perform well in the interview. You will not know a good thing or a bad thing when it presents itself to you. And by the way, there is no good or bad things that present themselves. They're just things that are presenting themselves. But that's an entirely other deck in speech that I have. Don't do this. If you find yourself doing this, it's your job to pull out of the spin. It's your job 100% to pull out of the spin. And only you can pull out of the spin. But it's important because you need to have the stability in your mind to be able to make a good decision on the next job. Because it's not just the next job, it's heartbeats out of your life that you will never get back again. And if you choose the wrong place, that's going to have its own consequence. So think about this. Think about this as well. And try to stay more into this area, this commitment, new beginning area from an emotional standpoint. So on the other side of the table is the employers. And they've got a whole new bag of cats to deal with in 2023. This came from a really good article that I came across, but even where I work and then talking to peers of mine, in all kinds of industries, it's the same kind of conversation that's coming up. So I felt like it was not only good data, but I was certainly living some of the bullet points here myself, and so were my colleagues. Biggest thing that employers are concerned about right now is pay transparency. So they're really looking at what are they paying for positions, and is it fair? Because everybody on the planet knows that we all paid too much for the skill set the last 18 months. We had to pay too much because there wasn't anybody. And now we're also trying to figure out, if we do go into recession, the same people that we have overinflated wages going to, are we going to lay them off? So there may be backfills there, or do we move them out through a performance metric, because now we're going to actually put in some SLAs and make people do what they need to do and move them out that way. So there's a lot of concern around pay transparency. What are we going to pay for a skill in 2023, and making the wages very transparent. And you're going to find on your side of the desk that the offers that you receive, which they're probably, I would guess, an educated guess, you're going to have more than one offer. You still could have 2 or 3 offers. They're not going to be as high as they were 18 months ago. So you're probably not going to make a $40,000, $50,000 increase. They're just not handing those offers out anymore, but you still might make an increase. But what you're going to find in that offer conversation really is they're going to walk you through it, make sure you don't have any questions. They're going to show you total variable compensation. They're going to show you the entire benefit package. They're going to really walk you through that, because that's a big concern for all employers right now. Internally, what they're going to start doing is, instead of raising all of the internals that have been there 10 and 20 years, is you're going to see spot bonuses, retention bonuses, anything that the employer can do to stop further bleeding so that they can stabilize. If it's adding the staff or filling a backfill, they don't want to continue down this attrition path. Everybody's got that fear and concern right now. They're definitely in the offers, in the interviews, you're going to see they may start talking about, what do you want to do? Do you want a certification? How do you want to grow your skill set? They're looking to show you plans or policies or tools, things that they have that they can give to you in terms of growth. 99% of the interviews I've had for 2 solid years, the number one thing the candidate says to me, the reason they're leaving is growth. Now that means different things to different people. Does that mean they couldn't promote? Does that mean they wanted to get an MBA and the employer wouldn't pay for that? Growth means different things to different people. They ran a survey and 92% of employees plan on doing upskilling. So the market is driving this, and employers are starting to respond and listen and go, hey, what are we doing for our employees in terms of growth? Beyond just, moving them from a senior to a lead to a manager. Healthcare is a big thing. It's always a big thing. Now it's a little bit of a bigger thing. It's around fertility. That's getting employers, concerns. And, how are we going to do that? Even paternity leave, mental health benefits. That's a big one. That's a huge one right now. You're going to see a lot of employers, meditation classes that are free, yoga classes that are free. Mental health is a real issue. We've got a lot of people that were already fairly medicated, frankly, that are now way medicated because they went through the pandemic, and now it's post-pandemic, and the majority of people are still pretty fragile. And so then you shove them in the workplace and they're not performing. I mean, this is not a joke. This is a real thing that employers now have to deal with before they can even get the work done on the desk. And so they're pretty engaged in, what are we giving to our employees? Because we don't want any problem. Here's the other thing. It's always about, we don't want a lawsuit, frankly. So we don't want people, having a problem. Interestingly enough, I filled out a job application, I don't know, 6 months ago now. And, there's all these things you can disclose, right? Your race, different things. Well, they actually asked if I had a disability, and they actually listed a whole bunch of mental health things, including depression. Think about that. Now that's a disability. Now the employer has to deal with that. And what does that mean exactly? Are you diagnosed that and you're on a pill to help alleviate that. I mean, that's why they're getting very concerned about it. And they're even relabeling the word disability. It doesn't mean that you have a hearing issue or you're in a wheelchair. The definition, if you look at those applications of disability, it's a mile long. Like anybody could click the box and go, yeah, I got that. It's very scary to the employer and it's very interesting. Overall, I'll leave you with this. It's compensation and benefits are the major topics for all the businesses for 2023. So here's what they're looking for. And I want you to think about this on your side of the desk. So they may be adding positions. They may still be going through attrition, right? So I want you to think about, did you help the last company you come out of? Did you help them through a transformation? That's a very catchy word that's out there in the market, a whole bunch right now. So if you went through a transformation of any kind, or your company did, that's a buzzword you want on your resume. They're gonna want to know, did you help drive growth? Did you help drive change? The biggest thing, the most obvious thing that nobody puts on their resume, frankly, is, attrition, right? Turnover, rollover. So what was your retaining score for 2022 if you ran a team? Like, did you have the lowest, attrition, or did you have the highest? How did you do it? The big thing is, how did you retain your people? And how did you pull your team through that pandemic situation and post-pandemic? Those are things you want on the resume. Those are things you want to grab attention for. That's what's going to get you the call out of the others in the pile. And then if you've got any hot skill set, AI, big data, cyber, even if you worked alongside of those teams or collaborated with those teams in any way, you definitely want some of that on the resume. So in summary, I would say there's still plenty of time to find another job in 2023. I would not worry about things too much. I don't think you're going to get any kind of a huge increase anymore. I'm not seeing it. I'm not hearing of it, but it's likely you could still get somewhat of an increase. Or if you were very overpaid in your last job and you fell out of that job, you could probably get the same money. Recession is still on the table. And they keep saying maybe by the end of this year. So we'll see how that all goes. And then, like I said, companies are looking for certain skills. So in your resume and in your interview, be kind of creative about that. If you know their problems already walking in the door, if you know 90% they're going to have these 4 problems or these 3 problems, get it on your resume. Have a star story written out about it that you can talk through in your interviews. That's what's going to get you to be the finalist in the role. So here's the little, slider on coaching. So again, there's a lot of coaches out there. A lot of times people don't need a coach, especially in this market. The only reason people call me is if they want to get hired quicker. They are concerned about where do they look, title mapping, what are their options? Sometimes they want an impartial party. They will pay for services because that's what it is. It's an expert and you're investing in yourself to get your time to hire to go down, and you want somebody impartial that can point you the direction. So sometimes the investment in a coach is a great idea and sometimes it's not. It depends on the individual situation. Typically after any of these kinds of presentations, I'll say to the group, hey, if you want to reach out to me on LinkedIn, if you want to, I've worked with Jeff a number of years, probably a decade. If you want to, if you're in this group and you want to come to me afterwards and have me just review your resume, and if you have 1 or 2 questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm happy to do that. And then if you want to look at the coaching, great. But a lot of times in those, I tell people, you don't need me because you don't. So I think it's a fine line. I think it's a personal decision about whether you want to coach or not, and how much free resource out there you're able to actually implement or not. So here's my contact information. Best place to really reach me is on LinkedIn. I'm very careful with who's in my LinkedIn and who's not. So they're all good contacts. I do know them. And then a lot of times I put out articles there on the economy or job seeking, or sometimes it's just a positive stun that I put out there. And then my site around my coaching and my background is Lionsology. And then that's a picture of, it's funny, I wrote that book probably 10 years ago, and it still stands up. It's still relevant. So it's a quick read. Hey, I want to leave you with this very quick, funny story. So I left the first company after 11 years, and that was very difficult for me. And I was making this job change, and it was very hard for me. And it was funny because all of a sudden I was the job seeker, and it was very painful. And so I was really going through, remember that graph I showed you on the emotions? Well, I was going through that in a very big way. And my husband one day got very, very angry at me, and which he never does ever. And he said to me, I don't know why you're doing this to yourself. Why don't you go read your own book? And that kind of felt like cold water being thrown on my face. And because there was a grain of truth in that. And so I didn't say anything, and I walked away, and I thought, there might be something there. And about 2 days later, I got up at 4:30 or 5 in the morning when the house was quiet, and I felt like a thief. I was sneaking into my own office, and I pulled out my own book. And I read my own book. And I got probably 20 pages into it, and I went, oh my God, I remember how to do this. I totally know how to do this. It's a process. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's going to be okay. And I put down the book, and I started my search, and I ended up with I'm proud of these results. Like, I did interview with JP Morgan Chase. I did interview with Wells Fargo. I did interview with Discover Card. I did interview with US Bank. I did interview with Visa and Goldman Sachs. I'm proud of that because I shot high. I didn't shoot low. And I just saw it as a process, and I knew where I wanted to go and the industry I wanted to be in. And I just kind of worked the process, and the book is about working the process. And the book is very simple, and it works. I can be my own testimonial here. I mean, for 1095, I don't know, maybe there's something good in there. It even worked for me. So it's a very humbling experience. I did land, not once, but twice, and I landed really well, but there might be something in there for you that's helpful. Because I do know now from experience, I'm now an experiential learner in how tough that job search can be, because I wasn't the coach anymore. I wasn't the person that hired people anymore. I was the person that left after a decade and then did another job change a year and a half later. So wherever you are in your search, it can be done. And I would just say, don't be afraid. Just brush yourself off and start all over again. That's all I had for this morning. Thanks for having me. It's always so great to talk to this group.
Elizabeth, thank you very much. There was a question Patty asked, based on the latest job numbers, would you say that it's an employer's market versus a employee's market? Or what do you see it at? Because, we always talk about, who has the advantage right now? Does anybody have an advantage right now?
It's weird. It's almost like a level playing field. I would honestly say that. I think if you're going to make me really choose one or the others, I think the job seekers have a little bit more choice right now in where they go. And if I had to predict, they will have that definitely through first quarter. After that, I don't know. The storm clouds might come in and the market might change. I can tell you, I filled probably 15 recs since November. And I can tell you, I've got plenty of ad flow. I don't feel like I'm, oh my God, doing deep dive searches looking for talent. People are applying. So that problem we had 18 months ago where like nobody's applying, we don't have that anymore. But are they the best of the best? No. I mean, can I show the executive 5 candidates? No, I can probably show them 3 solid, good ones. So I think there's still a little bit more of a job seeker driven market, but it's almost for the first time ever a level playing field.
A year ago when you were with us, I know you talked about, the end of 2022 is not going to be good. I mean, you sort of, you were, saying the economy wasn't going to be doing well. Now it's starting to, well, I don't know. I mean, we sort of see it, but yet we don't see it in the job numbers. What changed in the last 12 months, do you think, or what delayed it? Or
The feds jacking the rates all over the place, which I liked it because I thought we could stave it off or whatever. But now I see that is going to really cause doom. So that's what it was. They kept messing with the rates. And then if you look at what happens in the job market is the big guys, the JP Morgans, the Facebook, the Googles, the Apples, they'll drive it. So if they get scared and back off and stop hiring or hire, everybody follows suit with that. It's, we're all connected. I always talk about that. It's so connected. So if one does one thing or, a pocket does this or that, then it affects everything. But what really changed was those rate hikes and how many they did last year and them trying to figure it out. But they can't continue to do that forever. So the jury's out into what it will look like this year if it happens. And then what does that mean? Maybe it is a soft landing. They use those words, soft landing. I don't know. I don't think they know. The other thing I would tell you, all those layoffs in tech, and I forgot to mention it on the slide. On my LinkedIn, there's an article about this. When you look at all those big houses, those big tech places that laid off, the devil is in the details. I believe it was 30% or more was in HR and recruiting. So what happened was they overhired all these people to hire all these people, and now they're shedding it. The first people that went were the contractors in Meta, Facebook, add in the tech name there. They let go of the contractors. They let go of all the H-1Bs. Now, the real problem is there's a pile of people actually have to leave our country. It's no joke this time around. And then they went into HR, frankly, and shed a bunch of jobs. So you're watching, oh, tech, the world's crumbling. The big people are all laying off. Well, what are they laying off? Who's really impacted? It's really, kind of just level setting. It's not even like a big layoff, really, when you look at who and how many.
How much do you think when you look at these major companies that are laying people off or announcing layoffs, they're pushing people out one door and they're bringing people in the back door, but they're doing it because this will help boost their stock price?
Sometimes, what I'm seeing more is it's like, we couldn't get the talent in big data for the last 18 months, and now we can, or we need to, all these slots that weren't filled, we need to fill them. I think that's what we're seeing is some of the necessities now, they're going out and trying to find them again. So it's interesting. It's like it's a reshuffling of the deck. They got to get rid of some of the fat for the pricing. You're right, for the street, for Wall Street. But the reality is like they'd have to do this work anyway. That's why it's not, is it a recession? No, they're just like reprioritizing. What do they really need? And thank God it's not like, what do we really need to keep the lights on? That's not what's going on. That's when we're in recession. It's like, that's when you find people doing 2 and 3 people's jobs and, overwork and all that. It's more of, what do we really need? What are we really paying for? Do we need that contractor? Are we going to pay all these visas? Do we have the skill set internally? What do we want to do? And then, we overhired all these HR people. So I don't know that they're really hiring in on the back door. They're just reprioritizing what's reasonable before they go into serious cuts.
Right. If anybody has any questions, you're welcome to unmute your mic and you can ask Elizabeth. Elizabeth, if you have a little bit of time, you can still hang out with.
Yeah. Yep.
If anybody has a question, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask.
Question, Elizabeth, this is Geneva. And thank you for that excellent presentation. That was just some really, really useful information.
Sure.
My background is in real estate and the service mortgaging industry. And one thing I haven't seen a whole lot of, well, I'll say this because that's what my background is in. There's been a ton of layoffs in the mortgage industry. I know this is due to the change in the real estate market in part, but do you have any feedback on that, or what's your opinion on what's going on there? Because I don't see a whole lot of that in the news, but there's a whole lot of that going on.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes along with the Fed hikes and everything else. And honestly, if you're in that industry, then you have to have the guts to stick it out and make a career of it, because it is going to be that. Because even if you get through it, there's going to be another one in 10 to 12 years. So,
right.
This is when we talk about recession, and how I was taught a long time ago, and not to be afraid of it, was it's a self-cleaning system. And so people that weren't doing, honest work, people that aren't very good salespeople that just were able to take orders and make money, people that weren't really at the top of their game or even mediocre at the game. The recession flushes out all those people and recycles them through the market. And what happens is businesses go bad and mortgage goes bad and certain industries go bad. And then what happens is through that death, there's a recreation and a new industry comes about, or a new tech product or a new whatever. So there's certain industries where, if you were riding high and life was good, it's just a part of the industry. And that's why you find, 50% will flush out. Even in my industry, if you're coming into agency, it's 1 out of 100 make it the first year. And so you see a whole bunch of people come into talent acquisition on the agency side, and they're paying recruiters all this ridiculous amount of money, but it's all going to get found out. They're all going to get laid off now in the next year or two, because the ones that were really good, they're going to be able to stay and be solvent. So if you're in that industry, this is a normal thing. This is what rides the economy. And it's really a decision to say, hey, I don't have the stomach or the guts or the financial padding, frankly, to go through this again. I got to reshape my skill set and get out, or I'm going to weather the storm.
Yes, I'm actually in the process of transitioning into a different industry. I've been in real estate for 20 years, so I have rode the wave many times. But this time around, I mean, I've been laid off twice since October 2021. And I took a job in the HOA industry as an association manager, and found out that, the job that was presented wasn't really what the job was. And so now I've resigned from that position. So anyway, I don't know what I want to do now, but you're correct. It's like it is a roller coaster ride right now. So I'm in that process of just trying to figure out which direction to go. So.
But you're a tiny little piece in this bigger thing of a self-correcting system.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It feels personal to you, but this is why we are not Europe. We are not Denmark. We are not the Middle East. This is it. The recession forces and flushes out. It is survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. And you are at a crossroads of, do I want to do this or not?
I don't.
Right.
I've already figured that out. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm done.
Right. So, and some people don't, right? And so that's the beauty of, that really is the beauty of the US. The funniest thing is that we've just never dealt with this sort of situation. They're probably not talking a whole bunch about mortgage and all that. They talked a little bit about it. You'll see it in the banking sector. So you'll see, B of A laid off 10,000 people in mortgage. I'm making that one up, but those are the kinds of headlines you see. But it's not getting the air press that it did in 2008, 2009 through 2011, right? When the whole economy went bad because of bad loans. So no, you're not hearing as much about it, but I mean, it's because it's a normal thing in our industry. Like construction, like a year ago, people would flat out say, I don't have time to work on your house. I don't want your little bathroom remodel project. I can get a project for $30,000. You can get a contractor and dig a ditch, right? That's fine. I'll wait a year because you'll be begging for my money because it's all going to go bad. So I'm fine with that. I got the time and I got the money, but I'm not going to have you reject my bid. And I'm certainly not paying 5 times more to dig a ditch. I know what it costs to dig a ditch. That industry rides the highs and lows, and either you can do it and you can stomach it and you want to, or you don't. And that's what our economy is about.
Yes.
Geneva, thank you for your question. Somebody else have a question?
I have a question.
Yeah, Walt.
This is Walt. I noticed something going on, and it's just a curiosity question. The hourly paying jobs have a phenomenon that I'm interested in. Don't know if you would know anything about it, but the idea is like you go into a restaurant today and there's not enough people. The food service is low. I mean, it's just not enough workers there. And I'm thinking, where did all those workers go? Why aren't they coming back? Or why isn't somebody, filling those spots in the lower jobs? And another comment is, whatever the unemployment rate is not the same as the number of people who are looking for a job. I think we all know that. because so many things can't or are not counted. So I pretty much say, double that is really what's going on as the number of people that are actually looking for the jobs. And the last comment is, I don't care what's happening. I'm not stopping what I'm doing. I mean, there's a lot of things going on out there. I'm still gonna, I may change the strategy like you mentioned a few minutes ago, but nonetheless, it's like, if we're having a recession, what do I do differently? I mean, and you still go after the same things.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Where did the workers go? And you can literally Google it, and there's a ton of articles on where did they go. It's not just the restaurants too, but healthcare is very frightening right now. You even need a blood draw. If you need anything right now in healthcare, appointment, any kind of care. My husband and I had some very extreme things happen last year in a hospital that really just pointed to, they had staff, but the staff wasn't trained. And it was so big, it easily could have been a lawsuit. And so I didn't want to do that path, but because that hospital chain actually already has a major lawsuit against them. So there's a lot going on. They've recycled into some of these other jobs. It's almost like the people that worked fast food went into medical offices, into front desks, where that was a step up for them in pay and grade and skill. And then they worked out or they didn't work out. A lot of them just left the skill set completely and went off and did something else. A lot of them just decided to remain unemployed completely. So it's a lot of workers, though. It's like 7 million workers. And it's definitely has a big impact there. So I don't know where it all ends. I think that, our ideas about service and restaurants and even healthcare, we're going to have to adjust, because I don't think any of our expectations are ever going to get met. And I think we're going to have to be smarter in how we do that. Leisure and hospitality is hit probably the hardest right now. That's a big problem right now. So, where did they go? I don't know. They kind of reshuffled, but a whole bunch just like opted out. And I don't know why that is. And, I don't know if we want them back, really. I mean, I think we have to rethink service and everything else. So, but there's definitely some articles out there around where did they go. It's hard to track them too. That's the other part. It's how do you track that number? It's very difficult.
I think some of them went home to mom and dad. So
Well, I was going to say that. I think a lot of them just went, yeah, I'm just going to take up space in the basement, and I'm cool to do that. And I got free laundry and I got free meals, and I can't go anywhere, so gas in the car isn't a big deal. There was a study that came out the last couple of months. I can't remember where I saw that. And it might have been my husband told me, but he said that the younger generation coming up is not Gen Y, but the one underneath that, Z. They're smart. They tell their parents they want to save money and stay at home, and their parents are fine with that. And so a lot of them don't go into the workforce. They don't get apartments and whatever. They're not plugged into the machine, and they kind of opt out for a while because they're smart enough to realize, like, hey, they're fine with me living here, and I got free laundry and food service. So that's going to change our society as well in 20 years, 10 years, and so forth. So I think that we're in a big state of flux and change, even from a society standpoint. I think that what we grew up in is gone. And we're still in this terrible labor pain of recreating who are we as a society and what's acceptable and what's not.
All right.
I have a
quick
question.
Comment. I was just going to say, just speaking for myself, like the option of going back home or staying home for several years was just never there. So I am like, you work, you support yourself, and guess what? You hit hard times and you still have to figure out how to support yourself. So this is like totally, and I know because I've heard this before, that this is what's happening with the younger generation, but it's foreign to me as far as how I was raised. I'll just say that.
Right. Steve, you had a question?
Yeah, I had a question about the internal candidate. So you've talked about a couple of times, in a lot of cases, you may be competing against an internal candidate at a company.
Yeah.
If a company does have an internal candidate, why did they go through the expense of posting a job?
They have to by law. I'm just going to cut you off by
Okay,
law. It's a law. We have to consider everyone who is. So let me back up. When we post a job with qualifications. Qualifications are in the eyes of the law. I cannot even invite you into the talent pool by law or talk to you if you don't meet the minimum qualifications, which are posted very clearly on the rec. That internal qualifies and the externals, we have to actually show all of those options to a hiring manager by law. It all has to be considered. It's in the spirit of anybody who's qualified has a chance. It's not a game. It's never a game in any company, especially now in 2023, when we're really, really hammering diversity laws and all sorts of other stuff. So you better believe that they're going to sharpen their pencils and make sure from a documentation standpoint that they followed that to the law. So there is no, now the internal is going to have a advantage because they already know the tools and the culture. There's no learning curve there. And they may have some relationships internally that help them to get the job done better. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily more qualified at all. That's not what it's about. So why do they post it? Because that's a law.
So Elizabeth, over the years you've spent, I'm not gonna say how many years, but over the years you've been in the recruiting business or talent acquisition, when there is an internal candidate, does that candidate get the job more than 50% of the time versus a outside candidate?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And it also depends on to be honest with you, it depends on the company. If the company has a push to retain like an internal initiative that is clearly not privy to the market or some reporter talking about it in a article. If the company has an initiative that says we need to show our internals career path, we need to work on our attrition, then I mean they're going to get looked at more carefully. I will tell you that, but the spread is the same. I've seen them bomb and I've seen them win. I've seen them bomb and apply to something else, the internal, and then they get the next job. It just wasn't the right fit. Especially the space I work in is cybersecurity. So that's a pretty high level. You better know who the hell you're hiring because your entire infrastructure could go down, especially if you're tied to money. So yeah, I think it's very easy to be, it's not a good place to put your energy to point at, well, the internal got it and they don't know what they're doing. It's a better use of energy to say, I need a strategy, or that's just the way that worked out and move on. But by law, they have to, and they do, especially now, because you get one comment on Reddit or Twitter and, all of a sudden the DOJ is in your backyard. It's no fun around anymore.
Thank you. Good question, Steve. Any other questions, comments? Patty, thank you for posting that article about where all the hospitality workers went.
You're welcome.
Anything else from anybody? All right. Well, Elizabeth, thank you very much for your time. I think some really great information. It's just, a little bit different thing than, for us to think about what's going to be happening this year. Keep plugging away. Now's the time to go find something. And, if you're active and you're doing what you need to do, you're going to find that next job.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I would just stay focused on that and it'll all work out. It's just a process. It's not personal. It's just a process. And you know what? The thing you think you want could be the biggest nightmare. You don't know anything.
All right. Well, Elizabeth, thank you very, very much. All right. Well, Patty's on the call with us here. Let me share this. Next week, Patty's going to talk about Crystal Knows. Do you want to give us a little preview or tell us a little bit about what we're going to hear?
Sure. So Crystal Knows is a personality assessment. It's based on the DISC system, if you've ever taken that before. And what I use it for is to help me with my job search so that I know how to align myself with the interviewer and what their personality is. So if my personality type is different than theirs, then Crystal Knows tells me these are the things you should say to them. These are the things you shouldn't say to them. And one of the things in the Google Chrome extension that they have where it says, I need to call Jeff. And one of the options is convince them to hire you. I use that all the time. I look and say, these are the things that I should be saying to him. These are the things I shouldn't be saying to him. So it's really insightful. If you go to crystalknows.com, you can log in and sign up for free. You get 10 free LinkedIn profiles that you can look at. It has an 80% accuracy. I know some people have questioned me in the past on some of that. I can tell you most everybody that I've talked to, it's at least 80%. So don't use your free ones on people you know and everything else. Save them for your interviewers. And I'm lucky I pay their monthly fee, so I have unlimited views. I can look up as many people on LinkedIn as I want, but definitely use it to your advantage so that you can get a leg up on any other candidates who are also applying for the same job with equal qualifications. You want to find and build that rapport with them. So this is a really helpful tool, and I've used it in mine. I have another interview today. I had one yesterday. And it's great to look up all their personalities to make sure that you can, you know how to interact with them. So I'm happy to share that with you as another resource for your job search toolkit. And hopefully you guys will all take advantage of it and, you know, start logging in today, signing up for free at crystalknows.com.
So,
And I have no affiliation with them either. So.
she doesn't need to do this. She's just found this was a tool that's been very, very helpful. And when I saw her pop back up that she's out in the out looking for a new job, is like, okay, can I book you for a Friday? Because it's a great presentation. So she'll talk about it. And then next week, beside her presentation and looking at a few profiles, we'll be able, because she has unlimited usage, if you want us to call up your profile, we'll call it up and you can go, yeah, that's about 80% accurate. Or whatever.
Or 95% accurate. And then you'll be like, wow, my mind is blown. Why am I not using this free tool in my job search?
Right. So don't go look at everybody this week unless you've got an interview with somebody. But you know, save your views, would be very sparingly with it unless you're going to pay for it. But like I say, Patty will be with us next Friday and she'll talk all about this and we'll get into, you know, she'll show us how it works and what to do. So Patty, we look forward to seeing you next Friday.
Great. Looking forward to it.
Let's see here. If you have not put your 30-second introductions into the Zoom chat window, please do so we know who you are, so we can get you on the roster. We'll count you here. I do want to recognize Ben for showing up here in person. He put on his big boy pants and came to the meeting in person. Him and Walt were both here today. So we appreciate them here. You know, really, it's really going to be beneficial if you can to come show up in person, because if you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come get out of the house. This is a nice big room. If you don't want to sit too close to anybody, you don't want to sit too close. But the nice thing is when we're done, when we sign off here in just a few minutes, Walt and Ben and I, we're going to sit and have a conversation. We're going to talk about what Ben's looking for and see how we can help Ben and, you know, get to know Ben a lot better. So, you know, that's the benefits, if you can, about please come join us in person if you can. We really appreciate it. Career DFW and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us next Tuesday. We have a really good presentation about LinkedIn. Terry Sullivan will be with us to talk about how to create a LinkedIn brand. It tells you key contacts, who you are, what you do, and how you can help, and his strategies on how to use LinkedIn. The event will not be recorded. He doesn't allow his presentations to be recorded. So if you want to watch it, you will need to watch it live next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. For interviewing Wednesday, Jack Bick will be with us to talk about clarity when you need it most. Jack will be our sixth speaker in our special speaker series. And then in 2 weeks, we'll start back up with the regular interviewing workshops that we've had in the past. And then this Thursday, we're going to talk about effective resumes. We've got an expert speaker who's going to talk about their thoughts on how to have an effective resume to get your resume out there. This session has been recorded. It will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist, because if you don't, there's like 430 videos up there. But if you click on playlist, then you'll pick one of the 7 different playlists that I've put together. Every video that I upload goes into a playlist. If you go to the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, you'd be able to go back and see today's presentation. You can share it with other people, go back and watch it at your convenience. Once you click on view full playlist, up will come a list of all the different it should be in chronological order. You can scroll down, you can find whatever the topic is you'd like to. And just remember that when you're looking at the North Dallas videos, you probably need to go 25 to 30 minutes in, because that's when our speaker starts. But all the other ones, LinkedIn, networking, everything else, they start up right at the very beginning. Hopefully you'll come join us today. 11:45 will be at Country Burger, 3115 West Parker, northwest corner of Parker and Independence. Patty, I understand why you can't be here, because it's a little expensive to fly in here, have a burger, and then fly back home again. But and Carol, same thing. I know you're up in New Jersey. Thank you for being with us today. So, but for everybody here in the local area, come join us so we can have, we can get to find out who you are and what you do, and how maybe Walt and I and Ben how we can help you. So thank you for joining us today, everybody. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.